Okay, I had a problem with my Polaris 280. It was laying nose down in the pool and the wheels weren't turning. So I went on YouTube and I saw all kinds of possibilities and I tried them. And one of the things I had to deal with was this coming out of the pool wall had broke, and we bought another one. When you buy another one of these on Amazon, the whole set's about $23. You can get just this part, which is what was broke off on the end, for $10. But it doesn't come with the pressure relief valve, and I'm thinking I'm having a problem with my pressure release valve. But then I realized the wheels aren't turning either. So I'm thinking something must be plugging up my system. So I actually took it apart, and I'm actually going to take it apart for you when we get to that part. But I want to tell you how my troubleshooting went. Okay, so this piece right here in the middle of your Polaris is where your water comes in. It comes in from the top where the number 11 is pointing, and it goes down through, and that's connected right here. And then that water is going to go down through here, number 30, and it goes to those little jets that are pointing up on the inside of this big number 12 here. Okay, so that water shooting up there is what's causing the suction. Now, only one of mine was working. So I thought, okay, I've got it. It was plugged up. So now your water goes there, but it also goes, the line connects somewhere down here and it goes out the back, that little tail that shoots out the back. It's kind of like a booster. The water shoots out to make it move forward. The water was coming out of there very lightly. So my wheels aren't spinning. It's coming out of here very lightly, and one jet is not working. So obviously something's plugged up. So I took it all apart. And I took air, high pressure, well, you know, the kind you fill your tire with, and I shot it in here. Of course, when I shot it in there, first place it's going to go is out the tail. And so I shot the air in here, and when you take it apart, of course, the tail's going to be off. So I shot the air in here and plugged up this one right here with my finger. That forced the air to go down here. And then it came out, and I saw something, a little something come out of the jet. This is one of those jets. Okay, this jet and this jet are inside this big tube. So I saw something pop out of this little jet. I actually heard it hit. It was some little tiny seed or something. So I thought, okay, I got it. I put it back together. It's still dead. The wheels aren't turning. So I took it apart again, and that's what you're going to see here. Now, as I'm taking it apart, I realized that this wheel right here is what turns this like a paddle boat. Okay, your water comes in. There's a tube that comes from here. It's hooked up to this part, and it's coming straight across. Here it is here, and it's connected to here. Now, when I blew air through, I have no idea of, I have no way of knowing whether it's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing underneath this cover, because I didn't even realize what was happening yet. But this water is actually shooting in and spinning this wheel. Okay, so now I'm going to share my video with you, so you can see how to take it apart, clean it out, and put it back together. Okay, so we're going to take these two screws out. And then cut off the zip tie. Originally there was a white speedy clamp on there, and it just broke off when I tried to take it off. But you'll notice inside the system you'll see zip ties used, so I use zip ties when I put it back together. Okay, we remove the zip tie, pull off the tail. Now I checked this tail to see if it was plugged up. When I first bought the house, that was a problem. There was actually a little pebble stuck in it. but you blow air through that tail and make sure it's clear, and that means the tail's just fine. Okay, this screw here, we're going to loosen it up. It stays in there. You don't have to try to take it out. Just loosen it up and then you'll be able to lift off the top. So my purpose here is to find out where this thing is plugged up. There's something obviously stopping the water from going through it. I could have taken this screw off first, but it's easy enough to take out. That screw right there actually adjusts the flow of the water that goes out the tail. If you tighten it, less water goes out, so it's not as wild. I kind of like leave high pressure because I like when that tail comes up out of the water and shoots water across the pool area. It drives the dogs crazy. They love chasing it. Okay, I shook that to make sure there was no water in it. If there was water in it, you need to replace it. So now we see the lines that are supplying the water. And of course we got to get this one tube off before we can remove the towering piece there. We'll call that the inlet tube. The little part sticking out the bottom, that's water shoots out of that and helps, I guess, give the Polaris some momentum. And you actually set it. Oh, notice the size of the screw here. These two screws that you're taking out here are the only screws different from the rest, so you don't have to separate them out and remember where they go. You got two long screws holding the inlet tube. Now the O-ring on this inlet tube, I already had it off, and I know that it's not in great shape, but it's still working. We're going to lube it when we put it back. So now we'll remove these three screws. This inside of this tower is where those jets are that shoot straight up in the air, and one of those was plugged before. It's not plugged now. So we're getting all this out of the way. I don't know how far I'm going to have to go down at this point, but we got to see why those wheels aren't turning. Now this cover I never took off before. And you notice the inlet tube is connected to it, so water shoots into that elbow that you're looking at. And voila. Just like a paddle boat. Now notice how that's actually causing the wheel to turn. On this side of the Polaris, with the two wheels, actually there's three wheels there, that paddle turns it. So I'm moving the wheels just to see that there is no gear problem. I mean, this is all connected. It's all working. So the problem has got to be with the water. So the only thing I wasn't able to check was the water that's spinning this wheel. Obviously, see, you spin that, it moves the Polaris. You spin it again, it moves the Polaris. So this is obviously what turns the wheels. So why isn't it working? That's what I'm thinking right now. I'm just sitting there thinking about why isn't this working? And I think I got it. I got it. The water comes in this inlet tube, goes across that tube, hooked up to that elbow, and the water shoots in and turns that wheel. So let's check this part. So now I'm blowing through it, and you'll see I can't blow through it. It's plugged up. This is it. This is it. It's plugged up. So now I'm going to go into the garage and I'm going to put the air hose on it, the one I used to blow up the tires of a car, and I'll be back with the conclusion. Okay, this is it. That right there is Dinacious earth. It was in the pool, but when I put the Dinacious earth in, I had a whole lot of other issues. I did other videos on repairing it. There it is. It came out of the. I blew the air in there, and it came out. You saw it. I caught it in my hand, and you could see it on the top of the cover there. So that was definitely the problem. So I'm excited now. I can't wait to get this thing back together. But when I was one thing broke after another as I was ready to put the Dinacious earth in. I had to fix that, and then let's see what went wrong. I couldn't put it in because I had to fix the filter valve, and I was waiting for the spider seal. I did a video on replacing the spider seal. When I got done with that, the thing on the side of the pool that this Polaris hooks to broke, and I replaced that. So then I thought there was a problem with the restrictor valve on it, because it didn't come with a restrictor valve. I had to actually take the old one off and put it in. I'm just showing you here that the screws are just the long ones, and then all the rest of them are little. But it turned out it wasn't that. So I took this apart, blew air through it, and found out, yeah, there was something plugging up the jet, put it back together. It still wasn't working right. But then the Polaris pump stopped working. And I did a video on taking the motor apart. The motor's actually very simple. You shouldn't be afraid of it. If your motor stops, I believe 9 times out of 10 there is no reason to replace the motor. That's a very expensive project. It's very easy to work on the motor. So, okay, so I fixed the motor, and this thing was just laying in the bottom of the pool, and obviously it was plugged up with Dinacious earth. So in all this going back and forth, water gets sucked back through the filter when you disconnect it and puts air in the system. So I got Dinacious earth in my pool, and I also got it into the line of this skimmer. Funny thing is, after I put this back together and show you that it's running really good, here I'm putting the lube on. This is O-ring lube. O-ring lube helps seal, and this is really old. I use it for my water softener business, but you just need a little bit, and I got to get it out of the bottom. Okay, so I forgot what I was talking about. Now I was showing you how this.
I'm gonna zero the sound out.
I was showing you how this tube is arched. It has to be arched. Don't try to straighten it out. I just dropped the screw inside, and I'm even using the wrong size. It's embarrassing. I guess we'll get back to that. So we fixed the pool pump. This wouldn't work. Wheels wouldn't turn. It's laying in the pool, nose down. Oh yes, I put it back in after we're done doing this, after we're done putting it back together. And it worked, and then all of a sudden, it was laying sideways again. And I realized, you might notice in the end here, I forgot to put the adjuster in that controls the flow of water going to the tail, so the water was just shooting out the side. So I put that in, and voila, everything worked perfect, really happy. Next day, my buddy comes over, and I showed him, look, I fixed it. Well, then there it is laying in the pool again. And I took it out. The basket was not full. I mean, the net on the top, it wasn't full. It just had so much, the stuff that was in it was so heavy that the unit wouldn't work. It was full of tenacious earth and the tree seats. Probably about a handful full, but that handful weighed about a pound. So it wouldn't work. When I cleaned the net out, it worked perfectly. So the problem was the tenacious earth, or DE media, that you saw me pull out of that elbow. So if you can turn your wheels and the wheels turn, the problem's not mechanical. It's going to be the water flow going through the system. And if you don't drop a screw inside, it's pretty simple. Okay. Yeah, I was putting the wrong size screw in there. There's the long ones. That's where they go. That's the only two that are different from the rest. So this solved the problem. It's working perfectly. I'm very happy. I got to fix something else, and I get to share it with y'all. I sure hope you subscribe. I plan on doing a lot of things here. We're going to build a shed in the future, right over to the right of the picture you're looking at. Going to fix a Tommy gate on my truck. That should be interesting. Now these things, yeah, there's me showing you the, make sure it's going in that direction, because you're going to fit this big piece in and it needs that space. The first time I took it apart, I tried to straighten it out. That didn't work. Now I'm connecting all these with zip ties. You're going to need 2 zip ties to do this job, because on here it had a regular plastic clamp, but that broke. So since it had zip ties inside the system, I figured I'll just use zip ties all the way around. I love my Irwin tools, especially the channel locks. I think channel locks by Irwin are the best you could ever get. Now when you're tightening these screws up, don't over tighten them. This is plastic. Just because it doesn't crack while you tighten it doesn't mean it won't crack later. Everything just needs to be snug. When it comes to O-rings, you never want to compress them. You see the way the parts go together here. The O-ring doesn't get compressed, so all you want is snug. I'm having a hard time getting this one nut or screw started because the rubber tube is in the way. But all I had to do is push up against it with the screwdriver, and you got plenty of room. But I had to get it started. There we go. There's that little tailpiece I didn't finish talking about. Oh, it's not in the picture. Oh boy, I can't wait to get this back in the water. I know it's going to work. Now, of course, I can't see it from where I'm sitting, but you notice the side gets caught up in the wheel. So don't force it. Make sure you're not caught up. There it is, caught up in the wheel. So the screw to tighten that down is already inside. And now you should have 2 screws left. Oh yeah, this thing doesn't go all the way down. When the screw's in there, it might stand up a little bit. So don't waste your time trying to push it down even before you screw it. Just start screwing it down and it'll pull it down into its, to close the gap. You might have a gap here because the screw is stopping it. This is the screw I forget to put back in. So don't forget that screw, or you'll be pulling it back out of the water to put it in. I'm going to put a scrubber on that tail. It's recommended. I'm just checking to make sure it's clear. Yep. Now we're back to the little tail. What I'm showing you here is that you can adjust it by just loosening these screws. Don't take it out. There's no need to. but there's an O-ring in there, and everything in there goes the opposite way of the way you would think it would. But this thing is supposed to be at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock, slightly off the center. Okay, I guess when it pushes, it gives it some turn and direction. This can go on either way. The reason I'm looking in it is to see if there's any threads, because it's, you know, already been on there for a while, so I turned it around and I put it on the way it was. It's just easier to get it started. Here we go. So there it goes. It's running. It's running across the pool. I'm so happy to see that. Well, I hope you got something out of my video. The problem wasn't hard to fix. It was just hard to figure out, especially when you're afraid to get into the Polaris. And don't let it scare you. There it goes. It's running just the way it's supposed to. So please take the time to subscribe and like it. Help my channel grow. I got a lot of things to share with people. Have a blessed day. This is going to run a lot better after I put that screw in I forgot, remember? The one that controls the water coming out of the tail. Hey, if anybody knows, is this too loud? Is this making too much noise? You think that pump's all right? That's not the booster making it, it's the main pump.